Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us for today's webinar. I hope that I'm coming across clearly and that you can hear me coming through. My name is Moses Kemibaro. I'll be the moderator for this webinar this afternoon. We'll be talking primarily about home ownership, especially in the context of Daykio, and looking at what the current scenario looks like from a COVID perspective, given that obviously real estate in general and collectively across the industry has taken a very big impact, but also how does this present a strong opportunity for people to invest in real estate. So today I'm joined by my fellow panelists. We have Patricia Chess from Daykio. We have Purity Kagendo also representing Daykio. And we also have with us Kenneth Sabati, who's also one of our panelists, also here today.
Okay, Purity, maybe as we figure this out, can we start with you, Purity? Maybe you can tell us a little bit more about yourself and what you do at Daykio.
As Moses has said, my name is Purity Kagendo. My role in Daykio is marketing, and I've worked with Daykio for the last 7 years in the real estate.
Excellent, Karibu. Can you hear me?
I am Kenneth Sabatia. I am a licensed land surveyor, and I'm a practicing surveyor also. So my work is to do surveying and mapping in the Republic of Kenya. Thank you. I am the chairman of the Land Surveyors Charter of the Institution of Surveyors of Kenya.
And maybe we can start off with the question of, what is the current scenario that we're seeing in Kenya, especially given the COVID scenario, people investing in real estate, people looking into seeing how they can secure their futures and protect their interests with regards to the current market environment. Can you tell us from your perspective, Purity, why do you think now should be a good time, or what are the steps with which one can actually invest or purchase land from Daykio?
Thank you, Moses, and the audience for taking to listen to us. I'll say that the steps of buying land in Daykio is very clear, it's very transparent. You don't need an intermediary for you to come and buy a property with us. You come to Daykio direct and discuss with Daykio direct. Whether you're in the diaspora or whether you are local, you have accessibility to come and buy property with Daykio. In other circumstances, you'll find some real estate companies you have to go through an agent, you have to go through somebody for you to buy, but I would say for us, it's very clear. It's an open door and transparent policy of buying property. So I would take you through the steps which you take to buy land with Daykio, because for you to start investing, the first thing that comes in mind is, where do I invest? The other question is how. And the other one is when. When all those parameters have been put in place, the next step would be now, where am I going to buy the property and where is the location of the property? So once that is done, then you determine where and you determine how the process starts. And the sales process in Daykio starts immediately you get the communication. That after making an inquiry with Daykio, and Daykio staff engaging with you on properties. Then from there, we take you another step of plot identification. Where are you investing? You have already chosen the location where you want to invest your property. So from this point now, the Daykio team organizes with you for a site visit, and we take you to the site and you have to see the plot yourself. We don't want a scenario whereby you buy something that you've not seen. Once that is done, you go to another step of now booking for that plot. And the way you book the plot is by putting down a booking form, whereby you put your details and confirmations that surely you are going for that particular property. When that is done, the other step would be submission of the required documents. Once you book the plot, You come in our offices and then you give us the required documents, like the copies of your ID, the PIN certificate, and the passport photos of yourself. Once that is done, we proceed to prepare for you the offer letter, the letter of offer. In some scenarios, I've always found that people get into a contract which they don't understand. But I would tell you that in Daykio, what we do is that the offer letter covers all the cost implications. Some others go to an extent of going, I want to see whether this land is real. So they go through a search process through the land registry. And we allow them to do that if they feel uncomfortable. But in most cases, I've always seen customers buy without even taking that procedure, because they have dealt with us before, or because they believe in us for the business that we've been doing for the last 36 years. The offer letter is a confirmation that you're getting into a contract. And once the contract, you get into the contract, you pay the deposit of that plot. Once the deposit is paid, the other procedure is for us now to agree on doing the sale agreement. The sale agreement supersedes the offer letter. So the terms and conditions in the offer letter are equally replicated to the sale agreement. Once that sale agreement is done, then you complete the sales process as per the timing that we have given, because in Daykio there is flexibility in the terms of payment, especially on the payment plan, which we have flexibility up to even 24 months, depending on the agreement between us and the customer. The completion period means that you have already cleared your payment for the plot. Then from there now we proceed now to agreeing on working on the transfer of the title document to yourself. That's where now the process of the title deeds start. Okay, before the title deed is processed, there are those customers who feel, I want to start constructing my property. And as you realize, in most cases, in the county governments, you cannot start constructing before you get your title deed. So what does Daykio do at that point? We normally give you a letter of occupation of property, meaning that even if the title deed is not ready, this property belongs to you. And that letter, you can go with it to the county government. You can get approvals now to start working on your construction. We have done that in most of the projects, and even now we still do the same. Then when the transfer process is started and the title now is transferred to yourself, the next step would be taking occupation fully by having the title document delivered to you as a buyer. So what I'm saying is that our sales process is very clear, whether you are here or you are at the diaspora. But somebody might ask me, if I am in the diaspora, then how do I get to see my land? And we've always told them, you can bank on us to do that on behalf, or you can have your person, or you can have your family member go with us to the ground, see the plot, agree on the terms on the ground, and come and then we start the process. But what I can clearly explain to you is that even if you send your third party to come and buy and see the property on behalf, we don't engage on the sales transaction with that party. We'll engage with you directly. So the third party is just coming in to verify that the property is available. But now the transaction details is between Daykio and yourself. So that tells you about our sales process. Is very flexible, is open, is clear, and is transparent.
At this point in time, I think I'll turn my attention over to Patricia. Patricia, karibu sana. Thank you for joining us on the webinar. Excellent. Thank you so much. So Patricia, maybe you can give us a brief introduction about yourself.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Moses. I joined Daykio in 2008, so that's about 12 years ago. But the good news is Daykio was established 36 years ago. And so we are a solid company, and we've always dealt in real estate and especially selling land. And I am the general manager. I lead a team of a very dedicated and motivated staff at Daykio who are so willing to serve customers and in fact even go an extra mile to serve our customers. And to date, Daykio has helped almost 10,000 plus clients to buy land and even to build their own homes. So Daykio is a place where you can come and know that. In fact, this morning, Moses, I had a lady who came and she was very happy that she bought land from Daykio in 1989,
Wow.
just 3 years after the company was established. And she paid 35,000 for a quarter acre of land. And she sold it at 4 million about, I think, 5 years or 6 years ago.
Wow.
So Daykio is a place where you can come even after 20, 30 years and find that we are still here to serve you. And that's why I'm so happy to be at Daykio.
That's fantastic. I think especially now in the real estate space in Kenya, especially where land is concerned, we've heard so many terrible stories about, companies going under that, are dealing in the real estate space. So it's really, I think, refreshing to hear that Daykio has been around for so long and continues to excel in this particular space. Which is why I think maybe Patricia can ask you a question in terms of, given the current market environment, we have COVID, we have people dealing in times of uncertainty. Why do you think now is a good time for people to consider investing in real estate, given all the uncertainty that we're seeing in the global environment?
In fact, if what's going around, Moses, is that everyone should stay at home. So when we talk about at home especially during this time, we need a place where we can call home. And that is why Daykio is here, to remind our clients that investing in land is one of the best decisions you can ever make. And why land is because it gives you a financial security. And like Purity has been talking about title deed, when you have a title deed for your land, you can even go to the bank and get money to improve the land and even to get school fees or whatever else you need. So to us, we believe that land, and that's why the founder even started on selling land at that time when Daykio started 36 years ago, so that it can help you even for the future. And recently we did a survey by Ipsos, and it was very interesting to note that investment in land was #1 compared to savings from business, building a home, stocks, insurance policy, even personal car. So land is a tangible product that you can actually see. And especially during this COVID time, we want to remind our clients that land is something that will not change in any way. All the other companies are experiencing problems, but if you have land, it will always appreciate in value. And that is why it is important, even at this time, to consider investing in land. And as Daykio, as a company, we have gone an extra mile during this time to even tell our clients we are not charging interest for another 6 to 12 months until December. We will not charge interest on any property that they buy from us. And also, we have also extended a repayment period. So this is the right time for clients to come to Daykio because of the facilities we are giving them. We have become very flexible at this time. And as I was sharing with a client this morning, if you look around, you'll think property prices will come down. They are not. They're just appreciating. So this is why even during these uncertain times, land is one item, one product that you can be sure of, that it will not depreciate, but always appreciate in value. So we are encouraging our clients even to come. Even those people who want to invest in land, come, because we have flexible terms during this time when the circumstances are so uncertain. We can accommodate and give flexible terms.
Thank you so much, Patricia. I love the story of Daykio that you've shared, the journey, old customers coming back, the way they've seen their land appreciate, the way they've managed to grow their investments, and more importantly, that you're still here, as a business, 36 years later, over 10,000 units sold. I think that's truly, truly impressive. And also, I think sharing with me earlier that, even during COVID, you're seeing a lot of interest and a lot of people still investing, which probably brings me now to Ken. Ken, thank you so much for joining us for the webinar. You're in the business of surveying land, and I think it would be interesting to hear your perspective around the role that you play in the real estate sector as surveyors? How do you ensure that land is transacted in a sort of a safe and secure way, but also make sure that the investors are getting their full value? So maybe you can give us your point of view from that perspective.
Okay, thank you, Moses. And I also want to thank the in this Zoom meeting. I hope all that we will say here will be beneficial to the listeners. As a surveyor, the one thing one has to do is to have due diligence, especially when you are helping your client to assess the information, the data, the maps concerning the properties that they are involved in. So a surveyor's role is to help the client acquire the useful data, the maps, and to ascertain that the ground positions of the properties they are dealing with are within what is defined in the map. Maybe to add one thing on that is that a surveyor is a qualified technical person that transforms the digital data that is availed for that property, that it can be made easily accessible, easily read, and in a simple way through map representation. So surveyors are very key in real estate because they are the ones who determine the positions, the dimensions, the acreages, and all the neighboring parcels that are within that locality of that land you are dealing with. So they help the landowners to be within the precincts, within the boundaries of the properties they are dealing with, so that you can have the property owner not infringing on the neighbor's property, knowing the proper location, and determining the sizes of those properties. Maybe that is the role of a surveyor in the real estate management.
Okay, great. I think the next question I would like to pass on to Purity. Thank you so much, Ken, for sharing. Purity, are you there?
Yes, I am, Moses.
Okay, yes, Purity. I think we'd like to hear maybe your point of view around when it comes to investing in real estate and the characteristics of the real estate channel. What are the factors that one should consider when looking at a seller or somebody who's providing the services, say, that Daykio does? What would I need to be thinking of as a buyer, looking at sort of the key considerations or the characteristics when I want to invest in?
Thank you, Moses, for that question. And it's a very important question, especially to the first investors who want to invest in the real estate, because most of the people have been conned in this sector, in the real estate, depending on how they choose on their real estate channel. And for that reason, I would be able to share some of the points that anybody need to consider, especially the first owners, the first investors in the real estate. What do you really need to look up to, especially when you're buying a property? If you are choosing to work with a real estate, you need to know the heritage of that organization. How long have these people been in the business? Like I give an example of Daykio Plantations Limited. Patricia has just mentioned that you've been there for the last 36 years. So in such a case, then you can believe that these people have been here and they've been doing the right thing all through. Otherwise, such a heritage cannot be built if there is no trust. The other thing is about transparency. How transparent are they in their processes? I have just talked about the Daykio sales process and how transparent the process is. It is Daykio dealing with the customer direct without an intermediary. If a customer wants to understand something, he can go to Patricia's office, to the MD's office, and to anybody and get the right information. So that transparency is very important. What is it that the real estate is promising? They promise delivery. Because what is happening currently, Moses, you realize that most of everybody in the real estate now, whether an individual or a company, they listen to what one real estate company is doing, especially this gated community thing. You hear somebody saying, I'm selling a property and it's a gated community. It's just because you heard company A speak about a gated community, but exactly that's not what you do. So you find buyers getting into dealings which are not right. So you also have to ensure that these people you are dealing with, have they done something before? Is there track record I can look up to and say, I saw them deliver on this and I can trust them on this other? Okay, look at the company itself. How secure, how is the management of that company? Is it just owned by an individual? It's run by different people who have the profession in such a business. So be very careful when you look at the security means also the heritage, how long has it been there? That tells you it's a secure company. The other thing is about the payment plan, flexibility and affordability. How flexible is the partner that you're getting yourself to? Like you don't get in a transaction whereby you're told the payment plan is 3 months, and then you happen to realize that it's 1 month payment plan. The payment plan you are told is 12 months, only to realize that it's just a month payment plan. So you have to be very clear on that. Get the documents right about the flexibility and the affordability in their installments. Talk about appreciating. Is it a company that appreciates its customers? Do you engage with your customer? Do you educate your customer? So you need to know what information do these real estate give out there to the first owners, because the first owners need to understand exactly what is it that real estate is all about. That information should be open there. Industry leadership, how are they stretched? Do they also engage the diasporas? Are the diasporas accommodated in their sales process? So that one is also very key. Also look at the technology. Are they adopting the new technology, or they are still the old times? Like you've heard our surveyor there speak. Our surveyor, the way they do their survey nowadays, not the way they used to do it. And that's the technology that every real estate should be able to adopt to ensure that you get the right measures of your property. Advisory services. Do that company offer advisory services? How do they educate their customers? How do they engage their customers? When they have the site visits, are they open to discuss it on what the project is all about? What about in their communication, marketing communication? Is what they're communicating what they're going to deliver, or is just a piece of paper? So those factors are very key to consider before you engage with any real estate partner. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Purity, for sharing all that detail about the things you need to consider. At this point, maybe I would like to speak with you, Patricia. If you can hear me clearly, I'm just going to unmute you. There you go. I believe. Just a moment, Patricia.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm here.
Audible. Okay. Excellent. So, Patricia, I think Daykio has been going by the slogan or the campaign "Buy, Build, Become" for the last few years, and I think it's a very powerful metaphor for the idea of the journey of homeownership, where you invest in the land, you then build your dream home, and then you become the person you're always meant to be. And I think it's very inspirational when I hear that said that way, and especially when I look at your developments like at Bustani, where you've done an incredible job creating that community. And I'm just wondering, we're in a sort of a market scenario where, again, there's a lot of skepticism about real estate. People have invested in, sort of pre-developed, investments where, you invest and then you wait for the property to be built. And I'm just wondering, from your perspective, Daykio is in the land business, you're selling the land, you provide the locations and so forth. But why would you want to build versus buy, let's say, an off-plan investment in real estate? What are the motivators or some of the reasons why that's a better idea from your point of view?
I think for Daykio, we've taken a different approach. We do not, especially on land, we do not build and sell. For apartments, yes, we do that because it's in a, like we know, like in Kilimani areas where we build, but we do not pre-sale, Moses. We just build. Once the houses are ready, then we put it on the market and sell. So we are giving clients a ready house. And so there is no complaint to come back and say, we have put in our deposits and the houses are not ready. Whereas on land, where we have sold land, Bustani is our first project. It's where we have actually done a theme project, where we have sold land and we have given the clients plans and designs to build their own homes. That way the client has a choice to build the house the way they want it. And because they have paid for the land, we've already given them the title deed. So right from the word go, they are owners of the land. And once the house is complete, they own the house as well. So there is no issue of coming back to us and saying, I have paid for the house and it's not complete. So our concept is very, very different from maybe how other people are doing on pre-sales. And so it is easier for clients to come to us and we give them that plan and design to build it in their own time. Of course, we give them a period, like in Bustani, after they buy the land, we tell them within 3 years, we should build your own home. So they have that space and time to look for money to, once the land is paid for, they can put up their own houses. And for our other project, it's still the same way, the lower end, it's still the same way. We give them land and we assist them. We introduce them to customers, to contractors, so that they can make their own designs, or we ensure that each project that we sell, we make it a controlled development, so that clients know that they are in a place where they're supposed to build houses that within a controlled community. And so they don't build haphazardly and we don't end up with a slum. So that is how we guide them. We introduce them to customers, to contractors, sorry, and we even connect them with banks so that they can even have finances to build their own homes.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, what you're saying is that Daykio is more than just the land. You're really providing other additional services and guidance so that the would-be homeowner or home builder is kind of, you're holding their hand in that process. You're making sure everything's done properly, correct?
Yes, we walk with them step by step, and the same way we have done in Bustani. Like I said, Bustani was our first project where we have actually worked with our clients right from the sale to the time they build their own homes, by providing infrastructure, providing water, electricity, just to give value addition to the land so that they can build their own homes.
Okay. At this point, I think, Ken, thank you, Ken. I noticed that you were gone there for a moment, but maybe I can turn over my question to you now. As a surveyor dealing in, obviously real estate sales and dealing with the land component of surveying land, we know that there have been so many unfortunate stories of people buying land and discovering later on that what they bought is not what they got. And you want to make sure that, obviously I'm sure as a surveyor, that's one of the areas that you address. I mean, how do you ensure as a surveyor that indeed that the land that you bought is what you actually got, and ensure that, also that the buyer gets the land that, you would survey and value and so forth, is actually getting the value for their money?
Thank you, Moses. That is a very important question that many of land buying or property buying clients will always overlook. But Kenya being the country that many things happen, a survey is very key in the land buying process. And the first thing that a surveyor helps a client is to provide technical advice. What I mean is that when a property is shown to a client. The surveyor is make sure that is find the identify with the apps that are available. So the surveyor helps the client to identify that property. Again, the surveyor's role is to look at shape on them and compare it with the ground. Do those two, the ground shape and the mountain, together? The shape is inquire more and find out what is not supposed to ascertain the exact acreage that is being say acres, but it's by
I think we just lost you. Patricia, maybe I can come back to you.
Yes.
This is a question around, what are the red flags? What are the things that if somebody wants to buy land, especially given the stories we've heard in the industry and the space about people investing in land and they're not getting what they paid for. What do you think are some of the red flags that one must look out for?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. What do you see?
Sabatia just mentioned a few points, especially in surveying. Like we have just mentioned, sometimes when you're buying land, especially in Kenya, we have to be very, very careful. And the first thing we do when we identify land, we make sure that the surveyor is on board. So we take him to the location, because location is very, very important. We take him to the location to say, okay, this is the land we are interested in. And so he makes sure if it's 100 acres, he goes on the ground and measures that it's 100 acres. And it is that due diligence on the property that we really have to ascertain the ownership. So even if we have ascertained the acreage, we need to know that the person on the title is the same person who is actually selling us the land. And that is why we do a search. So after identifying where the property is, we do an official search from the lands ministry so that we are sure that the ownership is properly owned by the person who's actually selling us the property. And we also have to ascertain, is it family owned? Is it private? Is it an organization? So that we know who we are dealing with. Because family owned land can be very, very sensitive. So we have to be very careful what kind of land we are buying. And even the title. We had a case, I think, in 2009, where we were supposed to buy land with some other people, just to realize later on that we changed our mind because the land was not suitable for us. So the person who bought the land actually went to the lands ministry, got a title deed, and while he was on the ground, the property was transferred to him. While he was on the ground, the owner came, which means now a due diligence was not done while purchasing the land. So that is very, very important, even to go a step further to look at who are the original sellers of that land. So that due diligence has to be done before anybody enters into a commitment. So once we have looked at the title, we have to look at the tenure of the title, because in some urban lands, you find that the leasehold goes up to 99 years. So we have to check, is it 40 years, 30 years? And so that has to be extended. So that is another very important point. We also have to check whether there are any encumbrances on that land. Whether is it charged to the bank? Is there a caveat on it? And so the lawyer has to really work on that document to ensure that it's a clean title before we purchase it. The other point that we have noticed that causes a lot of delay, especially in like other counties, like Machakos County and even Kajiado County, even Kiambu County, where we have bought land, is it a succession property? That is very, very important, because if there is succession, we need to know whether the proper letters of administration, the execution has been followed, so that again, it's a clean title where we are purchasing it. And if there are any disputes on the land, we need to check that. And the other important point why we need Sabatia on board is to check on the riparian. Whenever you buy land, the package comes in with the riparian, because that's how the riparian is where there is a river. And so Sabatia is the one who has been very, very helpful to show us from the river, from the center of the river to where the beacons is placed. That is the riparian area. So we need to know that that belongs to the government and it's not our land. So we cannot touch it and we cannot sell it. And is it a public land? That's another important point that we need to look at. So all these points have to be taken into consideration before we even make a commitment to purchase that land, because you don't want to buy the land and then sell it to the client and then he has a problem with it. So before we commit ourselves, we make sure that all these things have been looked into and in order before we even sign the sale agreement to purchase the land, so that we give our client a clean piece of land.
Thank you so much. I think we have Ken back. Ken, karibu tena. I believe you are still in the middle of explaining your interventions around the surveying land and ensure that people actually get what they pay for. Perhaps you can just go back again and just give us a summary of what you were saying.
Okay, thank you, Moses, for that interruption. I was actually dealing with the importance of land surveyor in the real estate sector. And I'd actually said that the surveyor is there for the client for technical advice. Then he has to compare what is presented on paper with what is on the ground to find out whether the two scenarios have a convergence. And the comparison between the maps, the titles, and all the documents that are presented as for ownership with the ground position is key, because we found in certain areas that someone is shown on the ground the land that is being sold. But when you compare the title with the map, you'll find the ground position is not where the parcel is. So a survey is very key in advising the client on technical aspects of the land that is being bought. Then again, we also look at the acreages, whereby what is written on the title, is it what is presented on the ground? We have found some clients suffering because of buying large tracts of land, and they present it as exact acreage that is on the title. But when you go to do your measurements on the ground, you find it is much less or much more. Therefore, you have to know why is it less and why is it or more. So we always advise by measuring what is on the ground and coming out with a comparison with the documents that are given. Therefore, again, a survey is supposed to do due diligence by helping the client acquire the maps required for that property. Because any title that is presented without the maps, it could be fake or a forgery. Therefore, every title that is in the lands registry must be accompanied by corresponding map and the sizes. So we always advise the clients so that they may not be conned with just a title. Therefore, that title without a map may not be used as a collateral, maybe with a bank or any other development that you want to do with serious processes like approvals. Therefore, survey also helps the client to know the positions that the government hold over that land. What I mean is that you may have a title that has a caveat or a title that has an easement. So you look at that title, get the map, and see whether there is a caveat. A caveat means that there is an inhibition that has been given by a government agency or a private person over that land. If it is an easement, like a footpath or right of way, you also have to consider that, because as you buy that property, know that that easement will still apply even in your ownership. So we always try to help the client in the interpretation of what data is on the map and also your rights over that property. Thank you, Moses.
Thank
and
you
again,
so much.
Patricia has just touched on riparian reserve. Now, many people have had issues with the government because of the riparian reserve. And we come in because every classified river has a set riparian reserve. Not all parcels that touch rivers have the same riparian reserves. We have tidal rivers. We only have 2 tidal rivers in Kenya. That is Tana River and the other river. So the tidal rivers have big riparian reserves, up to even 300 meters as you go towards the coast. But other rivers have different riparian reserves according to the sizes and the volumes of overflow when it rains. So we determine it through the guidance that the government gives to us. So we advise the clients that as they deal with that land, though they may use the river reserve, they are not supposed to use it for permanent development. Though the parcel definition is you have to have that parcel from the center line of the river to the end of where it is marked. But the center line of the river is just a form of demarcation. But a reserve has to be left for purposes of flooding and any other activity that the government may want to use over that reserve. Thank you, Moses.
Thank you so much, Ken. That was really detailed, and I appreciate your insights. Purity, I'd like to turn our attention back to you. And I'm kind of keen to understand your perspective around, if we're in a situation where probably in the market there's a lot of young people who are becoming first-time homeowners, people who are investing for the very first time in possibly a plot of land that is going to become their home, or they're going to use it for speculative investment purposes. And I'm just wondering, again, with the hope that there's no major overlap with some of what has already been shared, are there any specific tips or pointers that you would be able to share based on your perspective at Daykio, where you obviously handled many new first-time home buyers or first-time real estate investors?
Okay, thank you, Moses, for that question. Let me start by giving an example of the people who come to invest in Daykio for the first time. You may find a client who is in the diaspora, and when he comes to us, he writes to us through the emails. He's like, I want a plot for building. In such a case, you need to be educating this client. If you want to build, where exactly do you want to build? And when are you looking up to start building your house? Because you need to be able to guide this customer effectively in a manner that he's not going to suffer losses in the middle of the transaction. Because I'm looking at our scenario whereby our projects are massive projects, like 100 acreage. If I give an example, like our Comaview estate. Our Comaview estate, being the way it is now, if somebody is looking to buy, considering it's a very new project, If somebody is looking up to buy a plot area to build a commercial development, I should be able to guide this client effectively, because I need to know at how soon do you want to start building. Because looking at that area as we speak now, maybe the commercial development will mature when people have already built there and the area is fully occupied. That's when commercial development would make sense. So what we do in Daykio, we make sure that we don't just ask customers to buy, but we educate them on the way of investment.
Just putting it on charge.
By giving point to point, if I start by giving point to point,
how many minutes?
Number 1,
30.
The first,
it was 2 hours. The
first owners, what you need to look up to, especially when you want to invest, is the location of the land. Is it the land that you're buying? Is it the house that you're buying? First, location is number 1. The second thing you need to factor is the security of the area. Where are you investing? How secure is that area that you want to invest? Is the area developed? How many people are within that community that you're buying a property? You need to consider security. Has the real estate that is partnering with you, are they provided for the security within that area? Then the cost of investment, what is your budget? Because the budget is also very key. You can't, if you're buying a property for commercial development, bear me witness that cost, that maybe the cost will be different compared to somebody who is buying for the residential. And at the point of the cost of investment, how are you going to get your finances? You also need to factor that. How is the price potential for growth? Because if you are buying it for speculation purpose, you need to see the potential of that area. Are there some infrastructure development that has come around that area? Because the infrastructure development within the area triggers also the growth or the appreciation of the property that you're buying. The other thing is the size of land you're buying. The budget you have is also integrated with the size of the land that you're buying. If you're buying a quarter acre, you're buying an acre. If you're buying an 8 acre, you consider also the size. That is of the house and also of the plot. How is the partner that you are partnering with, especially in the real estate? Do you understand the sales process of that organization? Do you understand the documentation process, the payment plan, the financing options, and the exit plan? If you want to back off from a transaction, is there an exit plan that is there for you? And how is the payment on that? The completion process. When are you going to get your title deed? If you start the transaction today, you finish your payment, how long does it take for you to get your title document? The other objective is the purpose of that investment. What is it meant for? Is it meant for commercial development? Is it meant for a single dwelling unit? Is it meant for speculation purpose? The other thing is the access to funds. How do you get to finance your project? Do you go to the loan? Do you go to the bank to get a loan? Do you get a circle loan? And do you support, or do you finance it with your savings? And then also the last and not the least, and is very important, is the income stability. Especially now at this time, everybody is talking about pandemic. Everybody in whichever sector you are, you bear me witness, we are all affected. You have to factor in the continuity of your income. How is it sustainable for you to start investing at this time? Is your business stable to continue supporting the investment? Those are the factors, 10 of them, that are very key, especially for anybody who is investing in the real estate for the first time.
Thank you so much, Purity, for sharing your perspectives around, what first-time buyers need to consider when they're considering, buying or investing in real estate, especially given these uncertain times when you can imagine that people who are preying on people in terms of not necessarily doing ethical things and also not necessarily giving people what they had hoped to invest in. At this point in time, we have approximately about half an hour remaining in this webinar. At this point in time, I think, we might be able to dive into some of the other areas we have not covered yet. And I think maybe, maybe this question, I think, can go to Patricia. From the point of view, Patricia, of maybe sharing your perspectives around specifically the market environment that we are encountering during COVID-19. It's been approximately 5 months. Every industry and every sector has been severely impacted with this. Obviously, Daykio must be also facing challenges, but I'm very curious to hear your perspective around how the market environment looks right now. What do you see in the next maybe year going forward? What does the situation look like for you? And then after I think you answer your question, we'd like to share a short video from Daykio that will be talking a little bit about some of the real estate things you need to think about from a legal standpoint when investing in real estate in Kenya. Patricia, please turn on your mic.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that question. First of all, we've seen some questions that have come up, and one of them was referring to, somebody was asking about water and electricity. So that is actually charged separately because the providers are also separate. For electricity, you have to pay Kenya Power. For water, in some areas like Bustani, we have a borehole. So that is also paid separately. So we cannot combine the two. There was another question from Margaret. I think Purity responded to Margaret. And we are asking those, our listeners and our viewers, please, if you have questions, you can also send them to our email address, which is info@daykio.com, and we will be able to answer you and give you whatever further information that you need. There was another question about Kajiado and how you deal with hostile neighbors. That one, we have not experienced bad neighbors as such in Kajiado, but in cases like that, we always report the matter to the county council if there is any issues, and they always intervene and help us out. So please, if you have any questions that you would like to address to us, send them to our email. If we cannot do it during this period, we will still come back to you and answer as with whatever information we can to satisfy you. Now, coming back to these uncertain times, we have said all the companies, manufacturing, shops, hotels, everyone has actually experienced a slowdown, and some of them even a shutdown. But we are actually grateful here at Daykio. We are thankful to God that we have been able to help our customers in this situation by coming to their aid. Those ones who have not been able to pay installments, we said earlier that Daykio gives their clients flexible terms to pay. So clients have come to us and we have extended the period for them. We have been very accommodating. Those ones who were paying in 6 months, we have given them up to 12 months to pay. And we are still working with them to ensure that they do not lose their property. These are uncertain times, we agree, but they are not going, it's not going to remain like this forever. Things are going to change, things are going to improve. Of course, it takes time. Once the economy is on the downtrend, it takes time for it to come up again. And we are hoping that as the situation in the country improves, we'll also be able to work with our clients and give them even better terms to help them to own their properties and not to lose them. And like we said, we have been accommodating in the sense that our prices have not reduced, but we have given clients time to pay and even not charge them interest. So we are still in the market looking for land because we still have clients who want to purchase land for their housing. And one thing I had maybe not shared earlier, people who have bought land now from us are now want to build because of the rent. Those ones, or some of us who are now on half salary, the most important thing that has been disturbing us is rent. So we find that people who've already bought land from us, they want to start building and even own their own homes. So it's a very complex situation that we are in. Things are difficult, but people have also become enterprising. They want to build their own homes so that they don't have to pay rent. But like at Daykio, I said, we are very accommodating. And we want to assist our customers in whichever way we can so that we can work with them during this time of the pandemic.
Thank you so much, Patricia.
Thanks, Moses. Yes.
That you're actually seeing in some instances, people are actually now buying more land as a way of almost a defensive strategy to the fact that, now that, rent is expensive relative to income, people have gone through pay cuts. And, now the reality of owning or securing your family and your home that you own, that you build, I think is very interesting development to see. At this point in time, everyone, I'd just like to share with you a short video about the Daykio sales process for buying land. It'll take about 3 or 4 minutes. And then I think going forward from here, we'll have maybe any questions from the attendees that you might have, just general questions to any of the panelists. Please use the Q&A option there to ask your questions. And then we'll wrap up the session precisely by 4 o'clock. So I'll share the video first. You can meanwhile share your questions, and then we will go into the final questions towards the panelists, and then we'll close the webinar at 4 p.m. Thank you.
My name is Elizabeth Mutiso. With us today we have Catherine Durango and Sarah Guara, advocates of the High Court, practicing with Kennedy Valley and Company Advocates LLP. They are here today to take us through the process of property ownership. A title document is a document that confers ownership of a property. There are 2 main regimes of ownership in land in Kenya, that is leasehold and freehold. Under the leasehold regime, the property is held for a term, mainly 99 years or 999 years. Under the freehold regime, the property is absolutely held by the purchase of a property is initiated from the point of a letter of offer. Subsequently, the parties execute an agreement for sale. Once a purchaser has fulfilled all the obligations and an agreement for sale, the transfer process can be initiated. The first step in the transfer process is the execution of the transfer form.
It's just I think the quality of the video is not.
Certificates and passport size photos that will help you with the transfer. The next step in the transfer process is procuring of the relevant consents and clearances. For freehold properties, the documents have been procured and the land control consent, and the rate clearance certificates for some county governments. For leasehold properties, we procure a rate clearance certificate after payment of any outstanding rates, and we also procure a consent to transfer.
It's called? Okay. Has Purity maybe Purity has taken it up?
Can you be, it's not clear. Step in the transfer process is the registration of the transfer. This involves lodging of the registration documents at the relevant tax registry. The costs applicable for the registration process include advocate fees where you have appointed an advocate, stamp duty costs, registration costs, and his passport. Registration of the transfer is there are factors that may cause a delay in the registration process. 2.
solve from the experts. Transfer registration is a straightforward process. Come to Daykio. Further inquiries need assistance.
Sorry about that. So we seem to have, I think, a few questions that have come through. I'm just going to have a quick look here. Sorry about that. Apparently the audio was very poor. And I think there are a few questions here. I don't know whether any of the panelists want to take any of these questions.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about the fact that the video is not coming across clearly. Are there any questions from the attendees? I see somebody called Fred Murakaru. Maybe you can share with us via the chat or the Q&A what your question is. Fred, can you share what your question is on the Q&A?
Hello, Moses.
Yes.
I can pick on a few questions to answer.
Okay.
If you allow me to do so.
Please do so.
Okay. There's Anonymous who is asking the property listings that we have so far. We have Daykio Bustani, which is at Roiro, 3.5 kilometer off the superhighway, a gated community under controlled development. And then we have the Koma View Estate, which is at along Kangundo Road, 3.5 kilometer from Koma Market. Then Kitengela side, we have Sholinke projects, 2 projects there, a few plots that are remaining. And then we have a few ones, even in other properties like Kantafu. So we will be sharing these listings with our customers after this webinar. Then the other question we are getting from Anonymous still, are things like road considered? We have some developers who promise tarmac cabro roads, but they don't deliver. What's the status of this on Daykio Bustani? Have the road been done? Let me start by clarifying that when Daykio Bustani started, we had given quite a number of promises about the project. We had talked about the ICT connectivity. We also talked about the security with the perimeter wall and the perimeter fence, electric fence, sorry. We had talked about water and electricity, and we had also discussed about having the road to Cabro level, sorry. And as I can say that some of all those deliverables have been met, and because we couldn't do everything at once, everything was gradual. We have done a gradual process, and as we speak, the road for Bustani will be starting before the close of the year. But the other deliverables that we promised have been met, all of them. So I would request my customer to be patient. By the end of the year, you should have that item reached. Then the other one, I said the audio is very poor. Moses, this one you can send maybe the webinar after this. The other one is asking how long will it take to have tarmac and cabro installed in Daykio Bustani as per your promise when you were selling the concept and plots. Yes, what we did with Bustani, it was a concept. I'll still repeat again. It's still a concept that we did. And I want to appreciate you, Anonymous, and all other Bustanians, wherever they are, because they bought into our concept. And as we speak, we are, just like I've mentioned there before, Bustani roads will be done by the end of the year. So we are committed to doing that. Then I have Frederick Murakaru. Murakaru is asking, I have a question regarding Bustani. Are the remaining plots on red soil? Also, is extremely difficult trying to get information for the diaspora client. How are you addressing that? Also, if I put down half the amount of formula, can I be given a 6 to 12 payment plan? Yes, let me start by saying that we have plots that are remaining in Bustani Frederick, and all the Bustani soil is red soil. It's a red soil project, and the plots that are remaining are also very viable. You have said that it's getting difficult for you to get in touch with us. Anytime you want to interact with us, I would request that you write to us through info@daykio.com. Is the most effective. But in the meantime, I'll also share my email with you so that we can continue communicating. And diasporas, we welcome them, and we have quite a number of them that are already on board. You have asked if you can put down the deposit of 4 million, whether we can give you 12 months payment plan. Yes, we are saying yes. Especially during this time of pandemic, we have considered giving Bustani payment plan up to 12 months interest-free. So you are factored in within that plan. Thank you, Moses.
Thank you so much, Purity. You wanted to say something?
Moses, yes, there's another question on Bustani roads. The same, it's an anonymous. And just to add on what Purity has said about the diaspora client, I was just actually writing the response. Please, if he can just get in touch with us through our email info@daykio.com, we will be able to give him all the details. And like Purity has confirmed, we can give him up to 12 months to pay the balance. Now, the other client who was asked about the roads for Bustani, we have already identified a contractor. We had sent out tenders for the road construction in Bustani. We have approved a contractor. We are just in the process of signing the contract with them, and God willing, by next quarter, we should be able to start the roads in Bustani. There was another question I think Purity answered on, somebody was asking whether we have land in Kajiado or Kisanju. Kajiado, yes, we do. So if you could kindly just get in touch with us, then we can organize a viewing and explain to him how we can pay for the land. So that is possible.
Excellent. I really love the fact that so many attendees are asking very specific questions around the things that Daykio offers, the location where their development's underway, and also, getting feedback from the the customers and others about different issues. And I think again, just to reiterate the point that do send an email to info@daykio.com or call them in their offices. The offices are open and they're ready to serve you to meet all your needs as far as your land requirements are concerned. I think with that, unless there are any other questions, maybe we can give all the panelists an opportunity to give us their 1 minute parting shot around various issues. Ken, we've not heard from you in a while. Maybe we can start in reverse order and give you a chance to give us your parting shot, given all that we've discussed today.
Okay, thank you, Moses. What I can say to our participants is that Daykio is very professional in all that they do. They are among the very few land buying companies and those involved in real estate sector that do due diligence and follow the rules to do with land acquisition, land selling. And I'm happy to be associated with the Daykio plantations. So participants, you are free, ask any question, and with the Daykio, you are in the right hands. Thank you, Moses.
Thanks for that, Ken. Karibu sana. Purity?
Thank you, the attendants, for your listening to us and coming to hear what we are doing in the real estate. We really want to appreciate you all for your time. And I welcome you to Daykio to come and invest with us. With Daykio, you can't go wrong. We've done it for the last 36 years, and it's a track record that you can trust.
Great, thank you so much. I think that milestone is massive. 36 years, 10,000, real estate plots sold, significant. And maybe Purity, you can share with us your last words before we close the webinar.
Me, Patricia?
Sorry, Patricia, sorry.
Yeah. Yes, we want to thank you so much, Moses, for moderating this program for us. And we want to thank all our listeners. We want to thank you all who have asked very, very good and genuine questions. And if we have not been able to answer you to your satisfaction, please do write to us, and we will do our best to give you the answer that might satisfy you. At Daykio, I know we keep on saying we are here. We have been here 36 years. Yes, we might have made a few mistakes. We are not perfect, but we want to remind all our listeners that at Daykio, we make real estate affordable and accessible. We give you flexible terms to pay for your land. And our joy is to see you own the land, and we give you the title deed. That gives us a lot of joy and satisfaction. So please remember, Daykio has been there 36 years, so we are dependable, we are caring, and above all, we are trustworthy. Like I said, today I met a client who dealt with us 25 years ago, and she was so happy to see us still here. She says, oh yes, I remember you were in 4-way towers, but now you are here, you're still serving us. So please do come to us. We'll be more than happy to give you all the service that we can. Thank you so much for listening to us. And at Daykio, we make property, land especially, accessible and affordable. All the best to all of you. Thank you, Moses, for moderating for us. Thank you.
No problem. And thank you. It's been a pleasure. Once again, Daykio is there to help you buy, build, and become. Remember that they are one of the oldest companies in selling land and helping you build, your dream of home ownership. And we would like to encourage you to also share with us on info@daykio.com or right now here in the chat. What other things would you like us to discuss in the next webinar? This was just the very first webinar that we've done as Daykio. We'd be very, very delighted to hear your ideas and thoughts around topics that you think would be very important and relevant to help you make the right investment decisions when it comes to real estate in Kenya. So please feel free to either drop us a line on email or talk to us on the chat here, and we'll make a point of considering that topic for the next webinar, which hopefully we should be doing later this month. And once again, thank you for turning up. We do appreciate it, and we'd like to say have a good afternoon, have a good evening, and once again, remember that Daykio is here to help you build and also create your dream of home ownership. Asanteni sana.